On this beautiful blue planet of ours, there is a green verdant land that is famed for its beauty, magnificent scenery, and for its ancient walls and homesteads. And on these homesteads, there inhabits a variety of wildlife, some of them not native to these parts. Also on these homesteads are these old country houses, some of which contain untold treasures of vinyl records that have been lain uncovered for decades and decades and decades. And these are the finds that were made yesterday in one such location. Hi VC, sorry for the long-asked introduction. I have a tendency to wax poetical. It's the Irish in me, I guess. We had some day yesterday. As you can see, there was a massive, massive, massive digs location. There was over 12,000 albums there, and maybe 500 or 600 singles of all sorts. There was stuff from the 50s right through to the 2000s. Basically, I came across the dig site through a bit of investigative detective work almost. There was a seller in town that alerted me to, I'm one of his best customers, I suppose I've been one of his top 10 customers, but he alerted me that he recently became acquainted with a seller that was looking to offload his collection, and I bought some of the items off him. I went in and I viewed the 1,200 or so items that he originally picked up. And I know I've shown some of these before, like I got the Oregon one. Most importantly, I got this Frupp one, which is the original one on Dawn label. I got the Jeff Beck wired one, and I got this Milton Nascimento one, which I haven't shown yet, but which is pretty crap, it has to be said. I also got this Billy Bragg one, which I haven't shown yet either. But I noticed that each and every one of these items had initials in the top right-hand corner, PR. And basically, what I said, I thought that was strange. So I obviously said all of these have all come from the same seller. To which the reseller said to me, yes. So he clearly wouldn't tell me who it was, because he said that he hadn't basically gone through all the stuff that was there. So what I did was a couple of days later, thought nothing of it, and I was browsing through the web, and on the equivalent of Craigslist here, I came across a guy with the initials PR. So I texted him and asked him if he writes PR in the top right hand corners of his albums, and had he recently sold some to a reseller in this area. And he said yes. So I got Dave Dartdove on the case, and the two of us shanghaied right down to this digs location, which is in a very remote area. It turns out the seller was an 80-year-old collector. He was a former musician, he was in the industry, and he had links with the industry. So he did a lot of promo stuff, as you'll see. So myself and Dave hit the place. I came down, my son was playing rugby on Sunday morning. I went down immediately after that, so we were there at around 2:30. I picked up Dave at the train station, and we went to the dig location. We have to go back there, so I won't disclose where it is. I know there's no one watching here in the Republic, but most of my viewers, thankfully, are abroad. So we started digging through it. There was quite a bizarre range of stuff. Like there were styles going from, as I said, from the 50s right up to date. There's a huge amount of classical stuff as well. The first item that I saw was this one, which I picked up, which is the Friends of Distinction. I know absolutely nothing about it, but I was attracted to the cover, which I had seen before because I have this book, this German Taschen book, so I bought it purely because of the cover. Now, all of these finds ended up, because I bought a bit more than Dave, they ended up being about €1.20 each, which is about $1.30 maybe. And I'll start with the best finds. To be honest, most of the stuff that I picked up, I bought to gift to other individuals, and there's certain items that I'm going to sell, but mostly I bought to gift to other individuals in the VC who will remain nameless at this point in time. I'd like to surprise them. This is the first item that I got that was of real value, which is the debut album on MCA Rainbow by Budgie, and this goes for unbelievable money. I already have Squawk by Budgie, so I'm very familiar with them, the Welsh crew, so I was very happy to see that one. And then I saw this one a couple of hours later, really, by Cooley, who's he basically is a former Irish, sadly deceased Irish traditional musician. Very interesting story. He lived in communes in America, came back home and sadly died a couple of months after this live album was culled. It's basically, side one is a series of performances that he made kind of in the weeks before his death, and side two is a series of recordings that were made by the National Radio Archives, who went over to where he was living in the US. I think he was in San Francisco in a commune. They visited there, recorded him there, and they visited him in New York as well. And this is on the celebrated Gail Lynn label, a highly collectible label. This is not for everyone. It's only for people that would have an interest in traditional Irish music. This is very much of the idiom, and Paul McLaughlin, I know that you would be very familiar with this. So I was delighted to get that. That's worth an absolute mint, but of course I'm not going to sell it. That's not the point. I saw this one then, and I was thinking of Fred Big Star. Fred was waxing lyrical about this early 80s issue by Laurie Anderson. He was also waxing lyrical about this one, which is the triple album by... Is it double or triple? Is it double, actually? By Fleetwood Mac, called Tusk. It's not my favourite era of Fleetwood Mac at all. I much favoured the Peter Green era. But I will take it definitely on Fred's word that this is good. This is unplayed in absolute mint pristine condition, and there's been no mice near this one, Dave. So I was very delighted to see those ones. Then I hit a barren patch. There was nothing happening for the longest time, and then I came across one of my favourite artists, and that is David Sylvian and Japan. And I saw this 12-inch. I already have the 7-inch Cruciform single, which I've shown before. That's the Art of Parties track. I also saw this comp assemblage, which I couldn't resist. And most importantly, I saw this lovely 12-inch Visions of China, which is from the 10-drum album. The beautiful B-side, Canton, which is an exquisite track. And I actually feel like doing a feature on my David Sylvian Japan collection. If anyone is interested in watching it, I'm going to be doing it anyway. Dave went into the room. There was actually two locations in the house. Dave went into one room and I went into the other one. We used the old Roman adage of divide and conquer. So basically we were hollering into each other as I found stuff that was of interest to him. Like I found 10 years after and a couple of other items. Dave has a brilliant video up for anyone who's not familiar with his channel. That's Dark Dove. I'll leave a link down here for it. Dave spotted this one for me. Now I've recently shown this because I've bought it. But my one, I'm not happy with the B-side, and I had said so to him. It's a bit noisy, so he kindly gave me this one. So I'm going to give you, Dave, whichever one is inferior. I hope you don't mind. But I really love that album. And that was the only ECM one. There was complete paucity of jazz stuff there, except for this one, which is an original French pressing of the Dave Brubeck Quarters Take 5, that famous Take 5 track written by Paul Desmond. So yeah, I've got a reissue of this, but it's great to get an original of it. This one I picked up for a certain guy in the VC. You all know who he is. I don't need to say any more, but this will shortly be on its way to him. And this is an English pressing. I'm not sure if he already has it. If he doesn't, he now has it. He now has the first one. If he does, he will have now has the second one. It's Morrissey's debut. Beastie Boys. I think, Dave, did you find this one? I'm not sure. License to Ill. Not my favourite Beastie Boys album, and they're not my favourite hip-hop group either, but for €1, I'll take it. Jean-Luc Ponty. I don't have this one. I've got about 10 of his albums, but I don't have this one. This is on Atlantic. It's called Aura. Jazz Fusion. Billy Connolly, in slightly worse condition, this one. It's a transatlantic sampler. It's called Words and Music, and it covers his solo period. He was a banjo player. It also covers his period with the group he was in called the Humble Bums, which were a Scottish folk group, and this is on the Purple Transatlantic label, and it's in fantastic nick. This one I was very kind of dodgy about picking it up. I didn't like these guys. That was my instant impression, but Derek showed it recently and someone else spoke about it, so I said I'd take a chance. And I know that Miles Davis, I read somewhere, did some work on maybe this album or one of the tracks on it, or one of the B-sides or something. Big shout out to Chris4127 Basket, Stivell. When I saw this one, Alan Stivell, the French musician, and I never actually knew, but Dan Albras is on this, the guitarist, and I have a lot of his work, which I must get to in my folk thing. I know he's not Irish, but he plays Celtic folk music, so I'm going to include him just to elongate matters somewhat, and just going to include him, broaden the net, and declare him as being Irish for the purpose of this video. All French Bretonist people are very Celtic anyway. But this is a live album recorded at the National Stadium in Dublin. I have no idea what it sounds like. I've heard some of Alan Stivell's work. He's renowned as a harpist. But this one couldn't leave it down when I saw it. This one I bought because it's from the early 1990s and I know vinyl was rare then. This is mint, it's unplayed. Springsteen's Human Touch. I'm not a fan of this era, and I'm not a massive fan of Springsteen either. I do like the track I Wish I Were Blind, which is a lovely ballad. I tend to favour his ballads, but I got that one with the intention of gifting it or selling it, but it subsequently has transpired that it's not worth that much at all. This one I got it was the most expensive item I got. This was €3. This is the 5 LP box set, live from 1975 to 1985. I already have this one, but I saw it for, he was charging €3 for this one, for €3 for the box sets. It's unplayed, it's mint, it's been opened, but it's unplayed, so I bought it. This Prince single from, is it Diamonds and Pearls, I think it was on, it's Get Off. This was really Prince's Lush era. It was a great instrumental called Clocking the Jizz. So I got that. This one I was very cagey about getting, but I do like the track I Wish You Heaven, which I think was on the Black album, which I had in bootleg. So I bought it principally for that track, I Wish You Heaven, but this won't be staying. Andrew Champ Sound, you showed this one a while back, Carole King's Tapestry. I have it on CD and I never had it on vinyl before I got this one. Now unfortunately with this one there's a blemish on one of the sides, so I actually got 2 copies of it. One of them is a perfect side A and the other has got a perfect side B. You can see there's a massive blemish here, so that won't play. But I've got a proper album between the 2 sides. It's an original UK on reprise, After the Gold Rush by Neil Young. I don't think I had this one on vinyl. I certainly have it on CD, but I don't think I have it on vinyl before. No, I do actually. It's Harvest I don't have. I have this, I have a reissue of this, but I didn't have an original UK pressing of it. It's in okay condition. It needs to be cleaned, but there won't be any skips or pops or anything, I'd say, once it's cleaned. It looks fine. This one I know nothing about, but Dave recommended it to me. Wings live album. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to sound. It looks unplayed, and it comes with the poster, so it's Wings Over America. I obviously recognise a lot of the tracks, and there's some Beatles standards on it, like Yesterday, Blackbird, The Long and Winding Road, Lady Madonna, and the rest of them are Wings tracks. But it's probably the thickest vinyl I've ever seen. It's a double. Okay. Now these ones I bought for a certain guy in the VC in America. He's a massive fan of Ted Nugent, and this is a promo copy. It's called If You Can Lick 'Em, Lick 'Em. When I showed this one to the wife, she was none too impressed with me, but I told her I wasn't keeping it, so she was a bit happier then. In my younger days, love, I would have. Sorry, couldn't resist. Nugent. This one is self-titled. Again, promo gold foil stamp. Both of these are completely unplayed. They were the only two Ted Nugents that I found there. But I do know that he probably doesn't have the promo versions of them, but they're going to him anyway. There was a massive amount of Irish pressings of Thin Lizzy. Practically all of their oeuvre were there, some of them in variable conditions. This one is Thin Lizzy Live Life, which I think was their last live album, which was recorded probably just before Philo passed. There was an original Irish pressing of Chinatown. There was an immaculate condition, perfect, even the corners are perfect version, an Irish pressing of Live and Dangerous. It's unplayed, but unfortunately someone wrote their name on it, which has destroyed the cover. This is the first Irish pressing of Johnny the Fox meets whatever, something the Weed, or Jimmy the Weed. Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Earl Weed. And this is going to Jimmy the Earl, of course, along with some other items here. Then I saw this one, Soft Cell Tainted Love, with a very interesting sounding B-side called Tainted Dub, which I can't wait to delve into. Dave, I got this one for you. I meant to pass it on to you. You were saying that you were probably, when I asked you if this was any good, you said yeah, so I'm going to give you that one. That's Singles by Depeche Mode. And I got Rory Gallagher, a double live album, Irish tour. And that's also going to find its way to Jimmy Earl as well. And then finally, I got 2 singles. One of them I was looking for Malcolm McLaren and the world famous Dream Team, Supreme Team rather. This is Buffalo Girls Go Round the Outside, Round the Outside. Was always looking for that, but I was never going to pay more than, I got that for 20 cents. I was never going to pay more than that for it, frankly. And there's a Soft Cell song that I always liked called Torch. Speaking of Soft Cell, I made a major fuck up. The original, strictly limited to, I think it was 2,000 copies of their debut 7-inch EP was there. I had it in my hand, but after 4 hours of digging, I was just sick of the place. I wanted to get out, frankly. I also had a matter of a wife that was giving me serious verbals to come home. I was 2 hours from home. I had to drop Dave back to the train station, so I had to get the hell out of Dodge as quick as I could. And I left it behind me. And I came home last night and I checked out, and I just couldn't believe the price that it goes for. It's a seriously valuable item. We have to go back there. There's thousands. There's probably 10,000 items that we haven't looked at, and it's going to take a few visits before we go through everything that's there. But there wasn't really that much of interest for me personally. The Japan side and the budgie stuff apart, I don't think there was really much else there that was wow for me. Like there was no folk there was no hip hop, there was no jazz really. So it was more from the point of view that it was so cheap, the items were so cheap there, and who knows, there could be a couple more frups there. Kevin, Dr. Strangely Strange, myself and Dave were chatting that maybe we might come across a Dr. Strangely Strange album. If we do find one, it's going to be on its way to you. And if we find other frups, for sure. But there's a whole bag of stuff there that we have to see. A lot of stuff is inaccessible. One of the photos that I showed earlier, there was literally three bags deep of them with 80 LPs in each bag, and they were stacked 5 high. The ones at the bottom must be thrashed completely, or else irretrievably damaged from ring wear. But they've been stored completely without recognition of the damage that could happen to the vinyl that was stored at the bottom. So that's been our dig in God's country. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and take care, VC, and hopefully we'll be back with a part 2, part 3, part 4 and a part 5 of this video. So for those of you that haven't seen Dave's video yet, he posted it there earlier, I've seen it earlier, please click on the link below and support him. Take care. Alright, VC, good luck.